And what you like to call it, budget meeting 2024 to order. First, John, then a moment for silence. Right, wish to break this to the as a relation to the flag. Yeah. Say something. So they just just yeah, we can be a little bit late, but he's gonna be here. So we will just start with 10 minutes, take us through this, and then anybody having a question from the vote, I guess you can let us know, we can ask why you vote. But
Okay, so I do have some announcements to say first. So this Thursday at 6 p.m. is the community meeting with at Milton at the Thomas State House. So that's a joint meeting with all three entities. On May 17th, which is Friday, they have a shredded day. So if you have materials you want shredded, the departments are all working on that. It's at the pavilion, 10:30 to 6:30. They will have lunch served. Electronics are also accepted. So for the public, if they're watching, they can bring electronics recycling. May 20th is our next scheduled commissioners meeting and budget work session at 5 p.m. here at the library, unless they have their system updated. They're supposed to start that this week. So we'll let you know if that gets completed. And then on the 27th, offices are closed for holiday. And then the NCACC August 8th to 10th work session, they have the annual meeting there. If you're interested, let Carla know because she can reserve rooms. Otherwise, the rooms go fast. It is. So that's all the updates we have. So I just want to start out initially and say thank you to Melissa and both Melissa and staff, all the department heads. So we, normally we would present you with the full budget proposal, which, as you know, we don't have all the elements to make that happen yet. So, and just so you're aware, with the fiscal year 22 option for the audit still being open, our financial software that we have that does budgeting, you can't put the next year in there because we have too many years open. So basically, we're doing all this on pivot tables in Excel, which is not really the ideal way to do the budget, but until we get the audit closed out, that software isn't open to another year. So I'm optimistic that might happen before the end of June, but either way, we'll take from our pivot tables and then transfer it into the software. So that being said, it's a base budget. So everything that we've done this year, through the finance department and the recommendation of the association is to go from last year's base budget and move forward with expansion requests. So what you have before you is going to be all of the department-based budgets on the larger sheets. And on the front of the sheet, it has their base budget. It has the name of the department. And if you flip it over, it has the expansion request. So that would have, the top one's administration. So there's quite a few of them, but I tried to get them so that every department has the expansion on one sheet so that you're not bundling through sheets. So if you look at the base budget, this is the appropriated approved budget for 24. And then in the first yellow column, if department heads wish to move money around within those line items, they would have to annotate that there. And for the base budget, they have to stay within the full budget. We can't add additions to revenue to expenditures. So basically, if you have any kind of expenditure outside of the base budget, it has to go through a recommendation or a request, which is on the back. So in this case, if you look at admin, there's. Glasses on. So in this case, you're gonna have two requests. The first one is for 13,600, which is professional services legal. And that's for additional services for Russell. And then they have, this one's probably gonna be recoded after going through this a few times. But HR requested $5,000 that would be used for employee longevity. So they haven't been doing like plaques or any kind of recognition for 15, 20, 30-year employees. So that's the recommendation there. So for this department, that total of 18,000 is listed there. And then if you look at the expansion budget summary sheet, this has all the expansion that's requested for the whole county, every department. It does include the school district, PCC, and all of the entities that request additional funding through the county. So the supplemental budgets. None of these have been, everything that was submitted that, you know, in our work sessions, we tried to keep them from asking, but everyone did a really good job of not asking for crazy out of the way things. But this does not have a breakdown of the recommendation yet. So this is everything requested. And I have, John has been helping me with the balance sheets. We're close on having the total sum for the estimated expenditures compared to last year. But because some of the tie-outs with salaries, transfers, it doesn't have the exact number, so I don't want to give you that because that can still change. It's hard to look at a budget without knowing where the totals are. So by the 20th, we should have all of the budget recommendations put together in whole. But in the meantime, after we go through some of this tonight, if you have department heads, questions, inquiries, we'll dig into those more specifically at the next session. But we do need to present the actual budget before, has to be advertised before the first, it has to be approved on the third. And then that would be the recommended budget. That's not the adopted budget. So as we go through these.
Can I interrupt you there?
Uh-huh.
If you keep up with the news, I mean, the state never makes it on time, and the federal government never makes it on time. I don't see where, if we don't make it on time, we're gonna get this shoved down our throat. But we have to panic and approve something because we don't have time to look at it.
So
So we can keep using the last year's budget, because I checked on this,
sure.
and we don't have to make these dates.
So by law, you have to give the tax information by the first. It is statutorily required, just like audits. So if we don't do that, we can just add that on the LGC list with all of our insufficiencies, which I would recommend getting ahead of that. Just like right now, we can amend the 24 budget at this meeting. It's always amenable, it's not set in stone. But I do have to, well, I don't have to do that. The tax department has to give the base neutral level, the total assessed value. All of those things are required by state law. For us to complete the budget, you have to have that. You saw the email that's on the top of that sheet. You know, I wouldn't be doing my prudence if I didn't vocalize that. So you're right. We do have to advertise legally. I do have to provide the notice. And the budget could be last year's budget. And it doesn't have to be complete or adopted. It just has to be recommended. So that actually falls to administration. The recommended budget is never the adopted budget usually. It's just all of the balance has to be balanced. It has to have the revenues, expenditures, all the tax information, and the budget message. So, and I think our calendar is pretty. This was designed to follow the state law. So we have the public hearing on the 3rd, another work session on the 10th of June, and then the adoption set for the 17th. But we can adopt it all the way up to the 3rd. So we have a little bit of time. But again, it is your budget. So we take guidance and try to navigate that. But I think in looking at how we are currently doing it, it is different this year. Because you're going on the base, so you have the base budget, which is basically, this is just your adopted budget last year. So anything that's above and beyond has to be requested. And the department, you know, like if they change their line items, they have to have that here. It has to be a net of 0. They can't have increases without going to the expansion requests. So there's a lot of departments that have 0 expansion requests. So, you know, either says no expansions or they, on the back sheet, it just has all zeros. So there's, you know, a substantial amount of the smaller departments don't have any changes. Those are easier to look at and to deal with than, for instance, the sheriff's department, the ESS, health. Larger budgets are harder to look through because they have more complexity. So I'm not sure, one of the things I want to tell you what we don't have, instead of looking at what we do have. So this information has all of the department requests, except for leases and vehicles. There are 1 or 2 vehicles in this list. But we do not have, we have to meet with person. So we still need to get the recommended desired vehicles and look at what that's going to be in our lease program. At this point, you know, our goal is to try to make the lease payment at exactly what it was last year. Otherwise, it's an expansion request. So we're trying to figure that all out still. Family services is real close to having their budget finished. Their directors only been like 2 meetings. So we're almost finished with hers. And then the help we have are going through all the transfers, the salaries, the audit numbers. So it's really hard to know where we sit with any of our reserves, with any of our transfers until the audit work is completed. But we're trying, because we're almost done with that, we have a lot of that data that could be put into this project formulation. So what you're seeing is just the expenditure side of the spreadsheets. You're not seeing all of the long spreadsheets that do all the FICA and the employee pay, all of the transfers, all of the intergovernmental assets, expenditures, the reserves, the debt payment. So, you know, the school district, there's $1 million in debt payment. Okay. So those things all are part of the overall budget. But at this time, we don't have that already. So, and moving forward, we can look at the one with the email on top. So this is just an email about the statutory links and things with, this is really to the tax director, but I want you to be aware of the statutory requirements. And then behind that, you have PCC's request. So that's actually the, and so if you want to hear from PCC's president or the board or from the school district, that's where I need to know, like, do you want to have them come in and go over their requests, or do you want to just digest this and look at it and formulate if you want this presentation or not at a future meeting? So, you know, in knowing that we've gone through all this and understanding that, so the college basically reduced their operating $100,000, but then they do have a capital request that's pretty hefty, and it keeps them right on par with their base budget for last year. I think our concerns were, you know, we have 3 or 4 HVAC systems that are overdue for replacement. And then people that we've had to get bids, their bid looks a little different than what we're seeing. Our building at the old courthouse, that is $196,000. And the K building at the college is considerably newer. It's only got 2 split systems on it, and their bid's 3 times higher than our building. So it just kind of makes me want to get more detail. They did send us the quotes. We're looking at that. It's hard to know what the quotes are when you get them from outside agency. And then behind that, you have the school district request. And that request, they do have pictures of their elementary school HVAC system. I think that's Stony Creek. So they do have some contingency. They actually have reserve funds So if we know that project wouldn't come out of our net obligation in the budget because they already have funds to do that. So when we give you the recommendation, in the future meeting with the full budget, you'll see where those are annotated, that comes out of school district contingency or funds that already have as reserves. It's a request they're making of us, but we're recommending doing it, but that they use their own funds to operate this.
One question I've got, and if the board's okay with this, rather than us jumping around, if we can go to this expansion sheet, and you'll start at the top, and let's work down through it. Sure. One commissioner may have an issue with it, one may not. I'd just like some clarification on some of these things. I know this is kind of a wish list, and I do understand that, but, there are some concerns on some things that I do have, so. It was okay with starting that.
And I do want you to realize that, most of these are the department requests.
Right.
So we have pretty good knowledge of what they're requesting, but I don't want to speak for them as to how, is it urgent this year, is it 2 or 3 year? So those are the kind of things maybe Mark can come back to.
Did you not discuss it with them?
Oh, yeah, we discussed it with every department. We had the finance director, the deputy county manager, and myself, at least one of the department head of their seconds. So we should take them about 45 hours in those meetings.
Most of what's in here, they, of course, felt like they needed this year.
I just, he said he didn't want to speak for him, that's why I wondered, did he not discuss it?
Well, like, for instance, when the department head is asking for 2 or 4 new FTEs, I don't feel comfortable in explaining, yeah, they really need those FTEs. I think there is an FTE requested here. I fully support, and that's the dispatch center. But there's a lot of other FTE requests, and it would be great if we had the money to do those things, but I would not want to speak as to whether or not I'll do that too for the dispatch.
I'm good with that, dude.
That's okay.
So as you can see, the fund name, so, going through these, it's gonna be split out. Most of this is all general fund. So the caps, the transportation, waste management, those are both enterprise funds. They're on the end, but they're not really impacting to the general fund. So, do you want to?
Let's go like 41 minutes. Go down.
Let's start with the top.
That's what I'm saying, right there at the top. What the department?
There isn't anything under the fund balance.
Oh, I see the numbers.
Administration, your 4120 is supposed to got about.
Yeah, so the first one, obviously, our goal is to give you a budget that does not require fund balance to balance it unless it's absolutely needed. Last year, they used $2.4 million in the budget. That doesn't mean we spent it. Our goal is to have 0 in that. So I guess if you want to go through administration, we talked about that earlier. The legal is 13,600. County attorney. Financial system report, the Munis software. So in converting to Munis, there are some software additional expenses. That's one of the things they didn't do before, was they didn't have that conversion software, and that's why they had so many issues. And they switched from one system to the other. The tax department they initially asked for a full-time assistant tax deputy director.
I'm sorry, go back to finance, you're going so fast, I didn't even get. When you go to a different one, we say you're going to,
So
this 16,000, say that again.
So the 16,000 is all software for converting to our new system. So if you don't use that software, you get conversion problems. So finance, it's a finance issue.
Is this a yearly thing, for the software?
No, this one alone is a conversion. It's a one-time.
How long have Munis been in place? This is third year,
This is the third, I think.
and we're just getting this off, just gonna try the software now.
No, not all aspects of the software were purchased when they were supposed to be at the beginning. And we have discovered that with all the trouble we have been going through, we now know why we're having the hiccups that we have been having.
Munis must not have much of a salesman then, if they didn't try to sell you that start with. You would have thought that would have been lumped in, but we can't go back, but go ahead. I just want to clarify that this is just not a purely software.
Right,
that
the
we were
16
advertising.
was one-time thing.
The software.
It's under
conversion-
the recurring.
It's only
You have it under
recurring if they're
recurring.
one time.
I'd have to ask.
That's the reason I'm asking.
We'll ask about that.
Okay. Also, while you're asking about it, ask about the minimum budget for 13.6 on the administration professional services. That's one time, that's really good.
That one's probably recurring.
Yeah, so most of the, I think the software one is the only one that we've gone through them all and they should be accurate.
Because that one says has been under budgeted within administration when looking.
Yeah.
When they come up with these numbers, they look back through all the expenses, what the expenses totaled and stuff. And it's been under budgeted, so I'm pretty sure that the 13.6 is recurring, but I'll double check on that too.
So the tax department initially asked for an assistant director, so Thomas will be, it's hard to say. I can't speak for them, but he told me that he intends to retire this year. So he, previously had an assistant tax director. This proposal is to bump up and reclassify the person that does the appraisals and record position, so that they have an increased. Instead of asking for a whole new person, you just ask for the person he has to be adjusted.
Will they be assuming additional responsibilities?
Yeah, that's why they need the reclass. They'll be taking on, technically, they should be being groomed to take over for him, but that's an appointed position. So it's really, you may be trained and take that on, and then, the commission appoints somebody different. So that's.
So if we're eating this 96.40. But he would be coming off of it after another year, his salary.
It says recurring, because I assume they're gonna keep that position as the assistant deputy or the,
That was pushed.
no, it would not be coming off. It would be,
His would be coming off.
his would be replaced with the new person. And I can tell you that in hiring department heads here and hiring anybody, most of the people that leave, even 30-year tenured employees, we're hiring people much higher than what they leave at.
Basically, what you're saying, he's got an employee down there that he wants to move up to an assistant, and they got an additional increase in salary.
Correct.
$9,640.
Yes,
So this is just a salary increase for one employee.
yes.
Okay. Sure.
So I'm not sure why we didn't add those out. I took most of the no expansion requests out, so you don't see them. It's just the next two are just, didn't delete them. IT has a handful of softwares, so they did their upgrade with the, I guess it's Army, their cyber security audit. And these are all softwares, and some of them we have currently, but this is an expansion request. So this is what the additional expansion is to cover all of those.
We voted on some of those.
Yes, sir.
Didn't we vote on some of these?
Some of these are in place. This is what it costs to have the fiscal year 25 software agreements. Yeah, because the original estimate's like 380. So if they already have it budgeted, this is just the difference for the expenditure.
What's a new phone system?
So they want to migrate to a new IP over phone system that's not tied to the current technology.
I would like for him to come in front of us
Sure.
and explain what he can live without on this list,
Okay.
or what the county can live without.
So maintenance has, on the very last page, you have all of the requests for maintenance. These are all capital projects. And they're intermittently with the introduction. So if you go with the base budgeting, this year, if you look at the other sheet that we hand out under maintenance, they have $195,000 of capital improvements last year. So if you fund the regular base budget, a lot of these on the list are moved onto the base budget to not have a net effect. And then the ones that are not are they're all in the expansion request, but the ones that are not are highlighted. Does that make sense?
You lost me.
So if you, because of the base budget last year, maintenance is one of a handful of departments that have discretionary funds that were one time. So last year you spent $195,000 on operating capital. And so in order to keep that the base budget, the $400,000 in request this year, 195 of that, they took these small projects and put those into the base. And that's detailed on a different sheet, on the back side of the department page. But so that you see them all, we included all of them on one sheet, and then RV is here tonight if you have specific questions. But these are, I mean, it's probably better pieces, but these are all, most of them are asphalt roofs. Many of them, like the elevator, the one with the spring in it, those are state mandates. If they don't fix that, they're closing it down. So there has to be basically the sump pump system has to be installed by the gap. I think we presented on that previously.
So that's the reason that's not included in the expansion summary.
Correct, because it's in the base, and we have the list of all those projects that we put in the base, because there was a base number. There's like 2 or 3 departments that have base numbers that are new stuff. But that's try to make it as clear as possible about. So the first one there is the health department. And that's one of the ones that's in your expansion request because it is large. You know, the ones that cost 1,000, 2,000, we put all that kind of stuff into the 195 in the base.
Page you lost me.
On the first one.
52,000.
52,000, and that's for the health department roof. It's gonna technically be a net zero impact to budget because John found that there is fund balance available in the health department fund to cover that cost.
Okay.
So those are the kind of things, as we get a fully developed budget, you'll have a lot of notes. This is a request, but it's not costing anything outside of fund balance. Like the school district recommendation that they've asked for money, they have fund balance and they'll the next one's a big one. That's for the historic courthouse. That's the HVAC system. It's been engineered, it's been designed, we have bids. That one's $196,000. And that's, I don't know, if you looked around our building, we have what, like 6 or 8 split units and roof units and all kind of, they don't have any dehumidification. The boiler system is 60 years old. That's a pretty hefty one. The thing you see with the green on them are generally things the administration is recommending table. So that's, like if you don't do, you have to prioritize other things that we would say do next year. We got.
I mean, don't get it wrong on that. I understand efficiency, but you're putting an efficient unit in a building that's not efficient.
Yeah. Sure.
How bad is the pavement back here? I hadn't been back there in some time.
So they just resurfaced the pavement behind the building.
I don't courthouse. I just resealed it about 3 weeks ago and restriped it. The boiler in that room has a flashcard in it. when Scott said it's 60 years old, it has a flash card on it, and we actually have to reset that boiler about 2 to 3 times a week. It's a million BTU propane unit. So when he says being efficient, a million BTUs burns up a lot of natural gas, and when you have to reset the flame card in it every 2 to 3 weeks, that's sort of dangerous when you can't even buy one now. We have to call the company and they have to order them off a line or eBay to try to even buy one. Or from a salvage parts yard.
And you kind of skipped subjects. Do we need to X off the 59,000 for the paving?
So that's DSS lower paving lot.
DSS.
59,000 is DSS, the lower parking lot. That parking lot only has 1.5 inches of asphalt and 1 inch of base, so the parking lot has come apart. And that's a total repave on it, taking it down to the dirt, putting new gravel in and putting it back.
And so everything on this list is an ask. This has been pared down from the original spreadsheets, which had a lot more stuff on it.
Scott, you said the items that you had
Are things that I would suggest
not this year, correct?
correct.
Okay.
Probably, if you can't fund things, those are the ones that we would recommend not funding. Some of them are pretty large. Most of them are FTE asks. The maintenance, repair, building lines. So when you see, when they have just a line item like that, they're asking for more maintenance and repair building line. They're just asking for supplemental funds to do more projects. So, and that's, you know, if you look at your base, when they ask for more than that's on there, they have to put it into a request. So that's, you know, we budget funds just like maintenance, repair. That doesn't, not all the line items get used. So a lot of those, we have to have funding in there to cover, you know, what happens if something breaks, what happens if it ever comes out.
What about 4260, the telephone cleaning $10,000 increase?
Cover up that.
That's because toilet papers went up to $96 a case. And I have to fund all the toilet paper for the county, and the jail goes through anywhere from 6 to 8 cases a week. Trash bags is doubled, mopping is doubled, all cleaning supplies has doubled, and I've tried to outsource it through 3 or 4 different companies, and it's no cheaper nowhere else. And we went to the bare minimum. I mean, if you see the trash bag in the trash can behind you, I mean, it's paper thin.
Well, yes, about the bottom one. So then the licensing requirements for water sewer at Pelham. We pay for the gentleman to get all his certification, he also provides the service, and that's the fee for his licensure. They have potable water system, you have to have credential.
Which one you know? I'm sorry.
I'm on.
The first one, yeah, 6,500. You had gone down that whole thing
Okay, top of right,
on page 2.
65 on the model.
The next one is the sheriff's department. So their current cameras and systems all need to be updated and replaced. That's a recurring cost because it's all cloud-based. All of the downloads from the body cams are contained by outside source, but that is to replace all of the current deputies that wear them.
A couple of questions I have on it, and I want to make a note on it. How old were the camera systems they had? Thought they recently got them in the last couple of years.
So I'll have Tony respond to that, but a lot of them aren't supported anymore as an upgrade. It's kind of like the Motorola problems.
Yeah, I mean, that was one thing I understand what's read, what's put in down here as far as, they were system evidence collection, and by a picture law enforcement, I mean, they do what they do. And what they do is they record audio and video. That's it. Don't put anything else in there or take anything else away. So, I mean, that was, and I had to be, you know, I'm just asking a question, but I mean, that is a pretty, that's not that bad of a jump. I didn't know if that was just a software upgrade for this camera.
It's the full camera and support. Because a lot of the cameras they have are software.
But this is, yeah, I mean, I don't understand, check them, just, I would check them, the camera itself, to me, I don't see the camera going bad unless it got damaged to the point that it doesn't work.
Yeah, my guess is they aren't currently with Axon, but a lot of people use that Axon. I think we an upgrade to a new system.
I mean, I just like, just an answer for that. Thank you.
So the next one is the upfit cost for the new vehicles in the enterprise fleet. So when they put the new fleet vehicles in, they have all the upfitting. It's 95,000.
No. Sorry. The last line on here, revenues offset to these increases is inmate housing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I was under the impression that the misdemeanor confinement program and the federal inmate housing program, all of that money was going to pay the payment for the new facility.
So that would be any additional revenue above the payments. So it's not like your home loan where you make extra payment here. There's paying required minimum. And so this is additional, they're going to charge more for the inmates this year too. So there's several things you're going to see that are increases and paid for by the jail revenue. A couple of those are the software. They're projecting, I think, 150,000 additional.
So that payment is covered.
So this one might be more clear when you see the revenue side of it too.
Yeah, so those are just expenditures, except for some of these do have the offset revenue because we've already got those done. But not all of them have been calculated because we haven't gotten to that.
Thank
And then, of course, you know, their medicals, 5% increase on their contract. That's just a set amount. Additional staffing. So there's some changes in policy that we're going to implement because of the state. But they're asking for 2 deputies in the jail and two correction officers, 2 deputies in the jail and 2 deputies in the staff. And you know, they don't have any surplus vacancies, so that's causes you a problem when you need to fund things, you don't have any extra money left. So I think we have another way to fund those with the changes in policy that would diminish our overtime, and not that everyone's gonna love that, but FLSA requirements, you know, the state and federal laws are there. We go above and beyond to do things. It's nice for the staff, but you don't need that these positions would be used for your salary savings to pay for those policy things that we can fix. And I haven't met with the sheriff or the chief yet on that. It's from the like he's telling you some, I haven't told him, but
I mean, so you haven't met with him, I mean, if you met.
we met with him on this, but the reason I'm suggesting not funding it is because we have another way to fix a budget issue. Transportation van, that's one of the few vehicles you see in here that would come through the fleet.
Well, let's go back to the skip 4320.
The detention center.
The detention center. So the 5% we talked about that, that's medical cost.
Up one more.
The additional stuff of.
Professional services.
97.
You got 2
Yeah, so the professional services, this is software that's mandated by the jails. It does have a revenue offset of the full amount to pay for that, but it's a requirement for state and federal. And then the revenue offsets 100% on that item. I have some of that literature. I didn't give you the big pack of like all of the literature.
All right, so if revenue, if offset with the revenue, then it's a zero, correct?
Yeah, zero impact to the county. So if you see on the far right, there's no number in there.
Where is that money, that offset revenue comes from?
Says inmate housing.
They have,
There's about 150,000 minimum estimated revenue gain because of contingent fees this next year. So that's paying for this and locks, the locks part of that,
and that's paying for it outside of the.
outside of it. This is additional new revenue that isn't paying back the loan. Right. I think that's the only vehicle that made it on here that's not. Is it on that page?
That's fine.
Of the van. So they, they use that to transport all of our inmates, and they take a lot of them to medical and detox and that kind of thing, and it's aged. So they would want to change that out on the lease program. We haven't looked at all the lease requests. I need to do that with our vendor, and Melissa. And, I don't know.
But we really can't do anything with vehicles until our audits are caught up. So I don't know that it's gonna be possible for the 25.
Didn't we get them a new brand?
Haven't gotten a new van since I've been here through the lease program. We haven't gotten any van.
We bought a new brand a year or two ago, but we might not.
So some of the other departments, DSS has a van, health department has a
I mean,
van.
we haven't got a van like you're talking that transports the inmate, not since I've been here in 3 years. You may have, but not through the lease program.
Yeah, so basically what Melissa's saying is like, we anticipate the audit being presented in June. And then a week or two or shortly after, the 23 should be ready. So it's anticipated by October, we should be off the government list. We can't do any debt or obligation outside of the budget that we have cash for. So the lease program is definitely one of those things. We don't really know for sure. We haven't looked at that too closely. That's one of the remaining things we need to do. Emergency management. So these are additional training budget. They have some new classes they have to take. So that's basically that request is just for training. Capital radio equipment consoles. This is a big one. And I think Kenneth would be needed to explain his request because there are some facility upgrades that have to happen with the consoles. And there's also these were very dated radio equipment consoles. And they're basically getting NCE 911 to pay for about $800,000 worth of grant projects that we don't have any match on. And they're like, well, you need to take care of the radio consoles. So it's kind of that, you do this smaller project and they're gonna take care of the bigger
Is
project.
that the fire department thing that we voted on not long ago?
No, this is.
Those are the radios.
We're gonna talk about that fire department thing in just a minute. Them 800 radios, if you don't mind. Where they at?
We have all the radios, we have no programming and the batteries. And we
We
don't
spent
have,
$1 million on this project 2 years ago. I jumped up and down to get it done. And we're sitting here waiting on Motorola batteries. Don't you think it's time somebody raised hell with somebody?
yeah, they've raised
I'm
hell.
pretty sure
So on
they
the
have that.
800 megahertz, we're the only entity in this region not on 800 megahertz. So when we have an incident, we can't communicate to them and they can't communicate to us.
We know that, but
But the bigger entities that are spending $6 or $10 or $15 million, they're radio programming and their batteries before us.
Kenneth said he can't get the battery.
No,
Pull the money. Pull the money and get on the damn radios back. We've been sitting here waiting on this thing 2 years. We've been waiting on the 800 system to come up on the towers because of highway patrol. We're sitting on that. We're sitting on. I ain't gonna spend $1 million with somebody not having. Somebody find out why we ain't got batteries. It's time to raise
hell, but they got how much of our money?
A lot.
A lot. They got a bunch of our money, and we sitting there with no 800 radios.
Well, and
In the
it's
2 years
frustrating
plan.
because we don't even have 800 capability and everybody around us does. So
We
you
know.
would think we would be a priority?
We know that here in the county, that's the reason I raise so much hell is get on 800 system. So we can talk to the helicopter that's coming and we can talk to everybody else. But we've spent $1 million and sitting 2.5 years, and Motorola and all them can kiss our hinds and give us our money back. If you can't get the stuff in here and we spend $1 million, we do something different.
Yeah, can.
That'll have to be in a,
Yeah, I will definitely make him aware.
Well, this time somebody I made one phone call to Motorola about a year ago and it upset everybody.
Maybe have them come to the next meeting and
Yeah.
give us explanation.
But there's no reason to spend motors, everybody else may be spending $15 million, but $1 million to Campbell County is a lot of money. And Motorola needs to know that.
But it's a supply demand issue. They just,
Send them back.
yeah. I
We
mean,
ain't had them,
there's other alternatives.
give us $1 million back. You go buy a new tractor, spend $1 million on it, wait on it 3 years.
I don't know, $1 million.
I can tell you that, like, when we get into fleet vehicles and sheriff vehicles, there's only one, the only Dodge is gonna be, there's no more police vehicles except the Dodge. And we're waiting 2 years to get the Dodges that we ordered 2 years ago. It's gonna be 3 to 4 years with everybody having the Dodge. Well, so it's, like, we don't have to spend the money till we encumber it, but.
We're gonna be on horse and buggy anyway.
So yeah, so they do have a 2 FT dispatch position request, which again, I want him to explain that. The call volumes, we just went through 2 cycles of hiring. It's not easy to hire people in that job. So I'll have him talk to you about all of that. Those are pretty critical though, because if the people we have that we currently have working leave, we haven't been able to hire anybody, so. And it's, supply demand on that too.
To the shift hours, we at night, weekends, not the most desirable, so it's just been hard.
I mean, I don't have to tell you that.
Give me the number to the president of Motorola. I want to talk dog. Last time I didn't get to talk, I thought some sales.
So, small tools, that's, building inspections, of the SROs have no requests at that time.
Maybe I missed something. In all the, 4335, communications says this request is for 2 dispatch positions and all associated positions.
So that it's basically all the FTE, the FICA retirement. Basically, that covers 2 dispatch salaries and all the personnel costs.
But I mean, why would, if that's, so 2 more additional positions?
2 more, so they should have 3 a shift. Right now we have 2. So with our call log, I mean, I'll have him get all that.
But do they have the position already there? You're not creating
Creating 2 brand new dispatchers, because right now we run 2 and they're saying they need 3.
You're saying you couldn't hire,
Yeah, we can't hire anybody, so the salary, they say, I'm not working nights and we pay
if you can't
40%.
hire
think
them
it's
from the
to
ones you do
existing.
have, why would you even try to add a third?
We need 3 to work every day, we have 2. I mean, like we're trying to hire people, if we pay them more and increase our. We can hire some.
I'm not saying we do or don't. My question is this.
you're wanting to know if
How
it's
come-
already an existing.
No,
Or
So
if
it's not an
it's-
existing position.
it's a new
neither one,
position.
2 brand new
My
FTs.
question was, how come that one is not in green like the other positions were in green?
Because I am not recommending those others, this one is. This one is recommended.
That was a whole other question.
Yeah, sorry. So SROs, no requests. Building inspections, they're replacing their iPads, their field inspection, they do all their stuff out in the field now. They're due for, I mean, that's something we coordinate with IT to buy in bulk. EMS,
building inspections should be self-sufficient.
they have to spend money within their department. So if they generate funds, like this year, we made extra 200,000, needs to be spent in their department.
Then why would we come up with this for their iPads?
This is
Because I don't
an
have
increase.
the revenue, and we haven't gone through the budget because we don't have the revenue yet. So that would be something that, when we finalize the budget process, that would probably just get funded out of their department, and it wouldn't hit the general budget.
So these are just all increases from last year's base budget.
So this is any request, whether or not it's funded in a special way or not, it's just all the requests and asks above what we currently are providing.
Yes, my question, on the building inspection says increase. Need to replace iPads, ancient iPads for field inspections. Why wouldn't that be a one-time versus a reoccurring?
Because they probably replace them like every 3 or 4 or 5 years. So it's this year coming up, they would buy them, and then they would take a few years and then buy them later. It's recurring, but not, when you see recurring, that's every year moving forward. This is just,
If they don't have to do that for 3 or 4 years, it would be recurring.
it's not an every year expenditure, so it's only recurring every random. I did that, the budget would be huge. Like if I put everything it's like the radios, we're gonna buy these radios, and so we're gonna buy new radios in 5 years.
We'll just switch that to a one-time,
Yeah.
and then when it comes up again, we can add it again.
Yeah. So moving on to EMS, they have building refunds, so they have to mail and distribute funds back. So this is basically a contract for a service that does the billing refunds. 27,000 a year versus, I don't know if they don't have the capacity or they don't currently have the technology, but they are asking for that.
When did they start doing refunds? I thought they had trouble collecting.
They do.
They do have collecting, but I handle the EMS payments and stuff, and it's like when a patient pays for it up front, and then the insurance pays above and beyond, and we have to refund them. Those are the refunds we issue.
Right.
Where they've overpaid.
And I
So
think
we actually have this money.
we get like 75% of the billing, 25% goes to the.
So basically, the 27.5 is to send the refunds out.
It's the whole service for outsourcing.
It's the whole service for the outsourcing.
Well,
Because it's EMS billing is the one that collects all the money for us and then sends it to us. So Barry would have to explain the details of that.
Yeah. And I didn't want to have every department that's sitting here going through all this.
Would you want Barry to explain?
He's got a few things that they probably want.
Oh, okay. I was just gonna make a note.
Kenneth, yeah, the 911. The bigger departments all have some interesting. So let's see, supplies, so the uniforms, they enhance the uniform budgets, that's an increase. Vehicle increase line item by 3,000, they have more vehicles now that they have more positions. K9 unit line increase, and anytime you run a K9 vehicle, there's a lot of mileage and upkeep. Managed repairs.
Wait a minute. Explain that one, Frank, help me out here. How did the dog go up 2,000?
And anytime you add a K9 unit to a vehicle, you have special cages.
No. This is EMS, so I'm gonna say this is the emotional support
Oh,
Yeah.
dogs that was given to them.
oh,
And so I imagine that it's vet and all that kind of stuff,
Thank you too.
cause They have the emotional support dog there.
They did emotional support dog in here today, too.
Yeah, we need it in finance too.
So that, I'm on.
So that's what that is. It's not really a canine unit.
We have to have an emotional support dog.
I don't know.
We have one, but they're asking for funds to support it.
When did they receive it?
It came last year, yeah. Maybe coming up on a year.
It was given to them.
It was given. Yeah.
So the vehicle maintenance and repairs have gone up, so they asked for more money there. EMS has lots of vacancies. But they did request, training, quality assurance officer and 4 shift supervisors. We had vacancies, so, you know, you can ask them out.
Four more supervisors up in the people, they don't have.
You're not recommending.
So the green ones, if you haven't done things, you definitely are supportive of the green ones, being the first. The next one is, okay, so this is back to your radio issue. Ambulances. Okay, so it takes 2 years to get one order. I have to get a letter of intent from, I basically write it. So if we order, it's gonna take 2 years to get an ambulance. A brand new ambulance is what, 360,000 or something. We try to just get the truck with
Okay,
the cab.
didn't we go through this last year? We got some on order and it's gonna be another year before we get it or something. And it was already,
It was an 18-month wait last year, I remember.
yeah, we'd already approved it and. We got some ambulances to sit there that we don't have yet.
Every ambulance we have 5. It would be easiest to say, hey, we need a new ambulance every year because it takes 3 to 5 years to get them.
I don't know if we approved it last year or not. We would have to get.
No, it's not in the
We would
budget.
have to approve it because it would have been below that 50.
Well, it was something we approved because it was, I remember it was talking, we talked about it a lot. And it was, because they were telling us how it was sitting there and we had to wait and,
There was one that had a
Didn't they
bad
have
box.
some work
The
done
box
on one of
was
them?
bad.
yeah.
And
It's getting fused.
I remember the discussion, but I don't remember
I
the
thought
details.
we just bought a new box.
Yeah, I don't think we got a new ambulance. It was repairs, just one.
So the chassis, this is for 2 chassis. And that's not cheap, but, so if we determine we're gonna do that in 26, we need to write a letter of intent. If you write a letter of intent, just like the police cars, if you order police cars and ambulances and fire trucks, if you say we're not buying them, 5 minutes after you say that and they have it, someone else will buy it in 10 seconds. So we're not obligated to do that, but if you want a letter of intent.
And I think too, the best I remember, he was forecasting by the time we would ever get these, how many miles those would have on them by the time. That's why he was going ahead and putting in, because it was taking so long to be able to get them.
One of them has 300,000 on it currently. So if you just keep stating it.
Can we get him to come in and kind of tell us what we're at with all that?
For sure. Is everyone listening? All right, so this one is also green. That is a shell building out of Pelham. And it's just a staff recommendation, so I don't. Let me see that.
Who's on this?
Economic development.
Economic development.
What kind of shield building is it?
It's just a typical shell building that you construct the building and then you leave the dirt floor, so you put in the type of business that buys it and develops it. Exactly, that's it. No, that's not a very big building, 500,000. I built some that the floors cost $3 or $4 million. But that's, you know, we're getting closer to the Pelham the Steve's project. I think, you know, at some point they can be viable development in that part of the county. But that's just an ask. These are all asks. So until we get closer to finalization, they're all just up before you. Then there's the training and travel. We currently don't have much of a budget at all for that. That's pretty in line with what the other departments do.
They're requesting 7,000 for travel and 1,000 for dues and subscription.
Well,
Yeah.
7,000 for travel covers the registration, like everything, registration, hotel, you know, all that kind of stuff. Yes, but I was gonna let you know, it's all included in that one description.
I can understand.
And it only includes, the first day.
1 year.
That's different.
What is the operating expenses right now?
I'd have to look.
I'd have to
look at that. It's on here. As far as the back, I check. Looking back, I wish I remembered every page.
You have to jump the classes. One vote. What? It says pay travel, so I know.
You have it?
It's got absolutely sure that the woman.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, I mean.
Said they thousand already.
Now just leave that.
Yeah, some of them, like in the line items you see there, if they make one less, they could raise another one to keep the base neutral level. So when you look at those sheets. I mean, if you, so I mean, you know, like with a lot of the training budgets, you can go back and look at what the previous expenditures are.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's 8,000. It was already budgeted and the original 7, we brought it up to 15 and told it with this showing on this yellow column.
Yeah.
Do you see the detail? I mean, we don't have actual.
You saying that is what it has been in the past?
We approved 8, we approved 8, 24, we approved 8.
Okay, last budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on that $2 yellow column right there is asking for additional 7, which brings it up to 15. Yeah, 7 to 8.
Yeah, and so, you know, good point Melissa made is that, there hasn't been anybody in that position, so if you look at the use 0.
Yeah.
Some of these things, they're budgeted, but they don't actually get utilized. That's important to keep in mind when you do budgeting is. You might budget in case you have a staff member that needs training, but you might not actually do any. So. I don't know.
If we not using it, why do we continue to have it in the budget?
Well,
But we haven't had.
we haven't had a development director, or economic development director. So. Over time.
So where's the money?
So these aren't pockets of money, it's in the general fund. And it gets dispersed through the accruals. Money's not in the little pockets like this.
Not used, it stays.
Yeah, it just stays in the general fund. That's where our reserve should grow.
Yeah.
So we're hoping, like right now, we're hoping that last year's 2.4 million that we have for reserve, that we use 0. Does that make sense? To balance the budget, they have to do that budgeting, but we're hoping that our actual, we don't even spend that money. And we try to encourage best practices where we save money, we don't do our full budget.
You're on planning.
Planning. Planning increase operating expense. 3955. They broke that out, the copier lease, employee training, maintenance for vehicles. So they're a small department, so they just, instead of having one line item for all those, they just group them all together. into that operating expense.
Okay, I see I understand the copy of lease and the, 1750 maintenance and repair of vehicle.
Yeah.
What is that?
I think probably needs tires, but they do annual maintenance,
So that is.
oil changes.
The vehicle he has is not a lease vehicle.
Is not what?
It's not a lease vehicle. It's not on the lease program.
No, that is, his vehicle is on his program. So I'm not sure what he's classifying.
1750 was for employee training.
I don't know if it has.
Yeah, yeah, 1750 is employee
That's
training.
training.
Okay. And then this, up under it's got maintenance and repair of vehicles.
Yeah, I see that too, I'm not sure.
No, have to ask him about that.
Maybe he doesn't know that we have these.
Or that it's covered, because he's new to that position, so he may not know that it's covered under the,
Program.
yeah.
And he didn't allocate any money.
Yeah, I didn't put in the amount. So the cooperative extension, those are tiered programs. We had two, it actually went down because it was higher than this. So we match, county matches the portion of the increase for the promotions. So basically they get promoted through the co-op and we have to provide a match percentage for that. And that covers all the. You don't see our like retirement contribution and all those are all one lump sum and salaries. So the departments don't usually break that out, but because they're not. I don't remember which employer it was. I wrote 2 letters. Soil and water, Mitch had nothing.
Mitch, do a good job.
And I think we don't actually have to do that. I think we voted on that about 13 months ago.
What's that? What's that?
On that increased contracted services, the state, didn't he come in and ask for that, and we voted on it?
He asked for an increase from the county and we didn't do it.
He asked that the county mirror whatever state increase
And we didn't
was,
do it.
but we said we would do raises as we saw fit and we would be dictated to by the state.
Yeah,
But you're saying this is a reclassification to the state.
Correct, and promotions. It's not just an increase. This is in so many years, they get like, oh, now I'm level 3 instead of a 2.
so this is where that's coming in, it pertains.
I think we're.
Most of them are 50, we pay half, state pays half, is that right? A lot of them, yes.
I think it's 50/50. But it's contractually obligated, so
Yeah.
it's in there because I can't say no and.
I mean, I think they're doing a great job, but I was saying that, I know we voted to.
Yeah, but that what you talking about was,
That was just a flat.
they came up with something that was, if the state gave a 5% increase, the county had to match it, and we said no.
And I think they said they had to make a choice which way they were gonna go, and that's why they brought it.
Yeah, but we had to decide one way or the other, and we said, no, we wouldn't do that.
Right.
But this sounds like somebody's got,
I think you don't
promoted.
really have an option with this one. It's
They went through a board, they had like 28 employees and one of the 2 was promoted. One that wasn't promoted actually should have been. But, maybe the next cycle they'll do it.
but with that promotion comes an increase in salary, which causes the county to have bigger obligations.
And that's just one person?
There were 2 and it was like 52,000. So it depends on their level at the state.
Right.
It just
Yeah,
says
that's-
employees, state
that's-
employees, it
That's
doesn't
all.
specify.
I just would like to know how many.
We need a little clarification on that.
And how much the increase in the reclassification was, so we can see what our thought would be on.
Because if this is one employee, that's a pretty good rate.
Did they include like the fringe benefits too? But I don't know that, like, that's.
Yeah, it probably-
Information on the health insurance.
But still, if you think about it, that does include that, that's 38,000 on our part, which means 38,000 on the state, which means 72,000, I mean, 76,000
Either way, that's not part of it.
increase.
I'll find out.
We'll have to get more.
I get little details on that.
Okay. So the other one, the one below that, JCTC, that is an employee's classification, and that was the total true cost for the increase.
Can you go into detail?
It's Tanya
She's in the red.
Tanya Terrell.
Terrell. So she's been promoted, through the job classification. That's the stuff.
If Ron said she'd be taking on additional duties.
JCP, so who's the commissioner on that committee?
Yeah.
Oh, look.
Go look it up. It's a.
I can't get the few.
So then, we keep going, the next one, the senior services, they've been asking for a part-time or a full-time employee to help with the driving, but that's just salaries to pay additional drivers to the parts of the county. that they're covered. So, you know, they started doing the cold meals so they can deliver them for like a week or whatever. But they don't have any drivers.
Question. If we don't pay any drivers now, correct?
No.
We start paying drivers, are they gonna be driving county vehicles? If not, what's the liability for us?
They're already got
Have
county
to.
vehicles.
Not normally, not volunteers though.
Not volunteers, 99% of us volunteers.
What I'm asking is, if we start paying them, they become county employees.
From my understanding, it was a county vehicle they would be using. I could be wrong, but being employed by the county and not being a volunteer, they have county vehicles at the senior center.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, from the way it was explained, that the part-time employee would be driving the county vehicle.
Wouldn't be driving a personal vehicle.
No, it would be a county vehicle.
But I had an interesting personnel issue last week where a county employee during work time took their own vehicle and got in an accident. The person hit them. And that's not covered under the workers' comp. As per the state, because we called and checked and so, you know, you kind of lose your coverage and like, yeah, they were doing something for work.
Right, but they were on their own vehicle.
And so, you know, we don't pay their deductible or their insurance, and if it's workers' comp, it's not really covered, because just because they were on work hours,
Right.
it didn't cover it. So, something to think about.
That's in county schools.
Castle County School.
County, okay, so you're required to pay the 6550 account, which is building maintenance and operation. By law, that's what you need to fund in this district as a county. All the other stuff, this is additional request, and we have the request in writing in this other packet. So we're stating they have reserve account to pay for that capital improvement at the school, which is like 312,000 or something. The 312.5. So see how it's coming out of their offsetting revenue, they have money for that within their budget already. So our suggestion to them is to use that money they already have. The other one, if you look at the request, it's like 500,000 goes to teacher supplements. And there's another one with the fund increase, they're asking for $139,000 of contingency money.
We hadn't given a supplement in the last couple of years, correct? Where's our grade situation at on them schools at this time? Does anybody know? Find out, because I ain't rewarding C and D report cards for the school system. Yeah, that's probably where they still at.
So the total request is like 1.4 million.
What is the 760 there as far as this current expense fund increase?
It's
That's the first thing on it. That's what you got in the other hand out here.
Yes, sir. It's this page here.
Gotcha. I'm getting there.
The 500 regular instruction, anything is teacher paid.
You talking about the 500 something?
500 something, but it's 760 above that.
That is for county appropriation, just operating money.
That's what we're required to give it, correct?
No,
No, we're not
already
required to give them that.
We already fund the building proportion. Technically, the 2.7 that was in your adopted budget and then 3.5. You're only required to do the 65, whatever that amount comes to for the operations. I'm assuming it's not that much.
I can't remember off the top of my head. No, I ain't getting
I would have to have their finance director tell us.
But the county appropriation part is money that the commissioners appropriate them, that they spend however they see fit, correct? We don't have any say so as to where they.
Correct.
But the 760 is, and
Addition.
what it brings it up to what, 3.5 is what they're asking for.
3.539
Right, okay,
plus the 500.
so you're looking at 1.26.
Yeah, I think it was 1.4. Because on the back page, there's. So it's all discretionary, it's up to you.
I'm still.
And so, I mean, they have an interim, they've named a permanent superintendent, but she doesn't start till June. So then, if you wanna have me reach out, I can have him come.
But you're saying on the capital outlay for the school, money.
They have in their reserves the funding. You can always pay for some, I think, if they'll finish. All right, so, dues and subscriptions, Parks and Rec are pretty small, but they're, they have 3 staff. Their dues and subscription went up. Basically, that's all their, sports, baseball.
Go back to one, that if not clear on the capital outlay, for the students, you got that, I guess, in brown. I guess you would say that just kind of washes
They have, fund account balance.
to
and
offset
their
that
value
due
that
lottery.
may have been from previous allocations. I don't know, it's like us, we have fund balance. So if you choose to spend it on one-time items, that's, we're saying they could choose to spend their reserve on their.
But we can't tell them.
We can't tell them that.
We can say you have money to do this.
Or you could say, no, we're not gonna support that, or you could choose to support. My recommendation, those are colored because they're not strongly recommended.
That's what the brown color denotes.
The green is, like,
Hard no.
I'm not saying we don't need the green stuff, it's just that with other needs we have, those are not the top priority.
And the brown is.
The discretionary, the board can choose to. It's kind of like the liquor authority when they said, ABC board said, well, the county commissioners can do that. They didn't want to say, I really don't. I don't want to say publicly, I'm supportive of education. So then, supplies, water, and sewer, that obviously went up, increased utility fuel. Programming youth line, I mean, these are all, like, they have 38% more children in the programs right now. And we're still buying them a $30 outfit per sports and a hat. So the increase it's pretty bare bones with the program we have. The concessions, they need a roof, but they also need the supplies, so basically. It talks there better than I can explain it.
Yeah, why? You lost me on the concessions. I think we need to make something instead of lose.
So basically, we pay for all the stuff up front and then we recuperate funds.
They buy a lot of concession, they have to pay for a lot of concession stuff, which they have money coming in too, but they have to front the money.
Basically, like if you, let's say you pay $1 for hot dog and charge $2, the money you're spending out is generally all recuperated plus some profit. They do have a recommended, I'm gonna try to put all the fees together so we can have the recommendations on the increases.
One question I got is, and I hadn't seen it on any of the others, we went through the increase in water and sewer. Did see the sheriff's department, I did see it be a mess. Why would this be putting out for them and not other departments when, because if your water and sewer's going up to one, it's gonna go up another.
Civil service started paying water too.
Huh.
They have started, they're already paying water.
Right, so I mean, they're saying increase, but sheriff's department did put in an increase for that, so.
Do you have any idea of this?
Sometimes it's in utilities, though.
I mean, obviously they water and maintain fields. My guess is that the higher rates just keep them as green as they do the charge. Water's not cheap, the hell water.
It said fuel line, what is that?
That's a fuel line item, so basically any of the vehicles and
Vehicles, lawnmowers, weed eaters.
thing that uses gas
Yeah.
or diesel. Session.
But I'm like, when you said a concession, $5,500 there. If they're buying items to resell, and they're making a profit on it,
Mhm.
why is there an additional $5,500 requested?
That's an increase to whatever we're paying now. There's a by.
Where's the revenue? Well, I don't.
Well, that's,
The
we haven't
got that number.
We haven't calculated that. That's one that we can calculate. We just haven't, it's a smaller items. We haven't.
Yeah, I mean, so, I mean, if they're buying a bag of chips 50 cents and they're selling them for $1, that's 50-cent profit.
Sure.
Is it by chance, I don't know this, it's just, yes, if I wasn't part of theirs, I think I had another meeting to attend. But was it by chance for, since they have more programs are offering, paying more staff, or it's not with that either? It's just more goods.
Just get him up here and tell us what they.
And it's kind of different way he's paying all the utilities, you know, RD.
And the other thing is, it's going, and excuse me, I like to ask him when he gets here, but program, uniforms for use, like $3,750. Parents pay it. Haven't talked about that in uniform.
So we used to get sponsored when I coached.
We bought them for years when they had the parks and recs.
Unless they started doing something.
Forward.
We have to order them all up front, so you still have to account for spending the money. You can just.
Parks and recs.
Right, but I guess my question would have been, if that's the case, then we should have, rather have an offset in the revenue of the $3,750 that was washed out, rather than a reoccurring expenditure.
I'll find out. And John and I haven't finalized that. We're kind of looking at big picture.
Yeah.
So, like when we finalize, get the revenue projections and start doing the transfers, we get a lot of that stuff more accurate. Right now, I think we just wanted to try to put it all together. Park and Rec. So this 20,000 is actually for that trail, the dog park. They're looking at doing a small dog park. They have that area by where those damaged trails are. Very old.
I will say this, and it'll be the board's decision. You start putting, if you have a dog park, you're gonna take some liability there. If you got people hitting golf balls, you're gonna have some busted windshields. That's just me throwing it out there. It's gonna be the board's decision. I just put
This is a foot train, not a drive.
But it says chipping. Well, you know, if you get people over there that don't know how to hit a golf ball, I can tell you where it's going. In 86.
Line drive.
RD, did you have the walking trail in your estimates, or is that this?
Walking track at Parks and Rec, yeah, it's in my estimates.
Now, this is separate, is this separate from fixing the pavement that's already?
No,
The walking track is in, maintenance, but it's like $26,000.
Okay. So expanding the walking trail on this one is separate from what you.
Correct.
Yeah,
Expanding, does that mean asphalting it too?
I have no idea.
I don't know how much more you can expand it.
Sound like you're double dipping on this one.
I think
Just
just
say it's two different departments.
copy of it, I don't know.
So that's. The Farmer Lake one, apparently the kayaks we have, we'll drag them on that concrete and asphalt. So we want us to replace the 2 kayaks. It's actually in their line item already, but it's still on the list because it's a neutral budget issue, but they're $4,000 for the 2 kayaks. It's. Yeah. Special, these are all the special appropriations. So I have not heard from the cooperative forestry. I talked to, cooperative director. He talked to the forestry head. We don't know where that came from. I'm told it hasn't been done in 3 or 4 or 5 years. So we don't have an estimate for that. Page 6. Page 6, that's the document.
Mine goes down to Reed Community or something.
Yeah, he was just letting you know he didn't have one for the forestry down there.
The rest of them are in there. Some of these are already in, because last year they were already in the budget. So these are only their asks for additional revenue.
All of these are, everything you talked about is above.
Yes.
Above the norm.
Yes. So some of those are blank because they're just asking for the same funding they had last year, like this one was 3,000.
It's on the ship children.
Yes.
3,000.
So we listed them all.
We had 3 increase, correct?
Yes.
I understand it correctly, like.
Outreach managers, 20, some 4.
I'm trying to, that's part of our list.
What's this is?
That's, I think that's the
Yeah, the
museum
museum.
right across the courthouse.
The Richmond Miles Museum, is that the house we're talking about?
Yeah,
Did they specify what the?
They have an application packet. So they do, all of these have a packet. I did bring most of my.
do you want copies of that? Do you want to see copies of the applications for the ones that are asking?
Sorry.
So arts and history is separate from the historical association.
Yeah,
It is.
Is that
That's
the
the
ones
arts
that goes where?
count.
I think that's the, yeah, that's the
Yeah.
arts.
Is that the arts count?
Yeah.
Yes,
That's the one in Coast Square.
yes.
Okay, that.
Yes, they do.
Question is, it used to be in the post office.
It is. Yeah, the old post
Oh, I
office.
don't know.
Yes.
Where we at? So do you have any questions on those?
They're requesting 10,000.
Above what they got last time?
So they're requesting 7,000,
7,000 more.
Yeah, they got 3 last
total
year.
of 10.
That would have history, 7,010, that'd be 10.
Can she come in and tell us what she's asking for?
Well, I'll give you guys a copy of the packets. They have everything listed in there.
That's
And then-
why they want you additional.
And if you still want to see them, okay.
It is safe. So, yeah, so she adjusted the base because the increase in retirement contributions, that's already been projected for several years since 22. So she has found in there where, covered it in the base because I already had that last year. But it is going up, yeah. The next one is the employee health insurance, and again, that's adjusted in the base. but the employees paying the 50. Yeah, 50%.
This is the one we voted on 2 months ago.
Yeah.
The next one is just proposed salary increase of 4%. And that, my recommendation is to revisit the 2022 studies and kind of look at where we sit at the positions. Because when you give everybody a 4% increase, it has like a negative impact. Basically, the taxes and things, most of those people would actually lose pay. But if you're spending $800,000, it would make more sense because that's an ongoing to make salary adjustments to the people that are out of market or listed in the position. So I think that work should be done. I'm not saying take it off. I'm just saying it would make more sense to put the money where it's effective in strategy and comp study. But the comp study that was done was changed and they did things. The data is probably still pretty.
No, let's go back over your last couple of sentences. The $800,000 you're talking about right there on salaries, I know that's 4% across the board. What you're saying is not to do it that way and to adjust individual.
The ones that are the most out of sync with the norms.
Okay.
So like, I mean, it's easy for me to look at department heads because that's who I hire and work with. And so I know, we've got several, applies to all staff. There are several department heads that are below the hired range. And then you've got compression. Like that's the problem with dispatch. You've got people that have been working for a long time. They're not making that much more than the person. And so putting those dollars where they're most effective, it doesn't help everybody, but it could help those people that most significantly are out of market.
But what would that do for general morale of the county employees?
I'm gonna tell you about this because it's on the agenda for the next meeting. One of the departments is coming to ask you to do bonuses because they have grant money that they need to spend on their department. And my suggestion was to bring it to the commissioners because I'm not just gonna sign off on one department giving bonuses for the rest of them around. And if they have the funds, I'm not saying I don't agree with that. I'm just saying that it's hard to, it's like having 3 children and you pay for one's college and the rest of them can just come.
Yeah, that's for, and with my question to you now is that if you give department head a 10% raise, 3 other departments get a 5% raise, and the rest of the department heads don't get anything, and your general employee gets nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's gonna go over, I'll be honest.
What do you have? That's going on. And I
And
I understand what you're saying about the what coming to us about that grant money, what we use for that, but I also would like to know what else that grant is. Sure. It could offset some of the cost we didn't.
I mean, I feel like, when you have previous practices, you have people that were able to discretionarily adjust salaries, and then usually manager does that, but it should be based on like, here's the comp study, here's what the norms are for these positions, it's classified into a science. Right, we had enough hirings and issues over the years that it's got a lot of disparity between, it's not consistent with.
Isn't that what you're talking about doing then?
No, this is just, the proposal here is just to do a 40% flat increase for every staff member.
Get back up just a minute. And what I just said. Unless something has changed with grants, that would be a reoccurring, if we passed it, that would be a reoccurring cost, which means they would have to get that grant every year and have that same amount of money to offset that increase.
I believe,
It depends on the grant.
and I believe she's just asking because they have a specific amount left. We're just doing it one time.
Okay, so after next year, their money goes away.
But it's a one-time.
But they're not gonna do that next year. They were just asking, hey, look,
I'd like to know how much money is sitting there and
They don't have
what
it.
else it can be useful.
Was this was a grant? Or was it a donation?
Grant program. It's coming from. It was that, it's a health.
It's a what?
Health grant,
Okay.
so I just, my recommendation is to write it up and present it and. I just didn't want to sign off on it. It's more than 25,000, so I have to pay it before you.
Get to 25,000.
What's that?
That's what the health department has.
Yeah, but I mean, he's saying it's more than 25,000. He had to bring it to us.
Yeah, it's 80 or.
I thought it was 5,000.
The budget ordinance.
You mean if it's under 25, he doesn't have to bring it to us.
That's.
No, you guys passed the ordinance.
As long as it's budgeted. I can't spend money that's not budgeted.
How, was she gonna try to get all the employees or just?
There's a list and amount depending on service and time. But I just want to give you a heads up, that'll be on the agenda. I don't want to preconceive anything about it. That they're presented.
Social services.
Social services, so a lot of these things have offsetting revenue in social services, their budget, like some of the others, DSS, social services, they're very complex and. I think
Their funding.
they have like 21 different budgets. This new position and position reclasses, these are basically promotions and pay increases, but they're coming mostly through match dollars. There is some county match. Again, these are not ones that we have discretion on. It's not like saying we're giving a 5% increase. These are ones that when they classify and get promoted, we have a contribution match. So 30,000 is our impact on that.
That would be the county's portion, 30,000. Then all the 68,539 comes from other revenue.
That's what they're like, income maintenance and social workers, after you've had so many years in, you automatically, and if you've done well with your, doing with your job, you go to the next level. And that's what a lot of these are, where they're going to the next level.
Yes, some of them, if you don't go to the next level, you're fired.
Right.
So, and Raleigh does that state level.
What
They
is,
supposed to be.
maybe you can clear this so that you feel over it all the time. When they classify somebody as a maintenance worker, is that clerical or is that,
It's paraprofessional.
is clerical stuff?
Income
No.
maintenance is usually for somebody with Medicaid, if they're coming in to apply for Medicaid, they see an income maintenance worker to go through to see if they qualify for the services or not.
And they're paraprofessional, they're not professional. Income maintenance, what it's referred to. It also includes Medicaid and that type of thing. And the influx of they made children 18 and older eligible. It was an influx of clients coming in.
All right, now I know what a maintenance.
So like the next one, just postage increases.
One question I would have on that, how many positions are they vacant as of right now?
I think I talked about 4 positions on there, but we can break it like that.
But it was across the whole social worker.
There's a bunch, I know that.
There's a bunch of them.
Because the surrounding counties pay much better.
And don't get me wrong,
We pass a lot
I have no
of
problem
money.
trying to, do what we can, but if you got 12 positions vacant and you're asking for new, maybe you need to fill him.
That's what we were trying to get rid of.
Guy
Sure.
before you.
We need to do it now.
I said, if you got 12 vacant positions, but you're requesting 4 new, maybe I would think you would need to fill those 12, get those 12 filled first before the 4 comes.
And the state requires so many positions in those different areas. So it's not necessarily the county requesting that. It's the state saying how many they must have in Medicaid, income maintenance, food stamps, or whatever they're doing.
But it has to be allocated in order, like if you were to hire full staff, we have to have that amount budgeted.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't mean that we're gonna spend that. With the vacancies, we also, when you go back and do the revenue side, we put some figures in there so we know how much is gonna be saved and then not budgeted. Does that make sense? Like it's a cost saving so that we don't make the budget as.
Yeah, and I totally understand what you're getting at, but what I'm getting at is if you fund these 4 positions, you got 12 vacancies, next budget cycle, and you're still 8 vacancies.
Yeah.
Open.
I mean, at the state level, it's different with us. If you have budget in the line item, I could bring you a proposal to say, hey, we're gonna pay those positions more with the money we have. But you have to prove that.
You have a high turnover.
It's hard when you have vacancies and. Telecommunications, that's cell phones. She had a sheet that she provided with this, but it's got a lot of detail and information, but it's basically, these are just the increased additions.
Scott, back to that, the positions, Melissa just pointed out that that's a reclassification / promotion. So it's not that new employees,
Right.
Frank. They're not hiring new employees, it's current employees getting promoted
Okay.
into a new
So
position.
this new
Right.
position needs to be out.
Yeah.
And there's several
Yeah,
positions.
Position
Right.
reclassification.
Because like I was saying, once they get that certain amount of years in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see, because I was looking at it too, that's why I was asking, I don't think they were asking for new.
No,
And then we saw the reclassification
Yeah.
/ promotion, so, yeah, we'll take that out. A new position.
I think the only such service on that for one, new position, that's due to Medicaid, have put more people on it back, their age back, and she got double her limit. No way she can do it the way it is.
so this,
Don't even show that.
so that was 74,000 is a revenue reduction. So they're actually not meeting that budget. That's what I'm saying, when we get more of this developed, you're gonna see a lot of the contract and things are reduced. So that, you're only seeing the expenditure request side, you're not seeing the full picture. So that's. Then, let's see, 5300, so the increased maintenance repair, that's on their building.
That'd be like, why wouldn't that be under maintenance?
It is, but it's in their department. So that's just their line item for like, when they have separate contracts too for. Our cleaning people do all of the buildings, but, the maintenance and repair, so that's just adding funds so that they can allocate that. You wanna, that would be pretty.
What's that, what building is
Yes,
The income.
Is that $250 for building maintenance and repair?
sometimes that's if she's got a lock or air filters or something like that, that their specific person wants to do. I mean, I've had to do air quality testing there before and stuff like that. 'Cause we had a certain employee that said that allergies were bothering them, or they thought this was this, and Diane's always said, well, I've got a little bit of money for that. But as far as any big projects or anything like that,
$250 ain't doing much.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't, what is,
I think she just sort of keeps it there, just so.
it might be, it might.
There's people in DSS 24 hours a day. There, most time there's women there with kids in the back, and say a light bulb blows or something like that, instead of her calling me. I have seen Rock Hill run to Family Dollar and get some light bulbs and put them in or something, you know.
I got you.
Instead of me coming out in the middle of the night, you know. I think she likes to keep a little bit there just in case, 'cause at one given time, I've seen 4 kids stay in that building for a week.
So they already have 3,000 there, so they're just adding 250, so they probably have some kind of contract that went up.
And I will tell you this, that building right there gets sprayed for bed bugs about 3 times
Yes,
a month.
so they get it sprayed.
I mean, it's You know. Any cars have to get sprayed.
They go out to so many houses and they bring them back oftentimes and their purse on themselves. So what?
I ain't going in that conference room and sit down.
They keep the conference room pretty clean, but I want to make sure that get in some of those vehicles and ride to the houses.
Yeah, I mean, she's got, you take, bed bugs in one of their vehicles, I have to spray them and everything. And then I have to have them clean so they can get them and drive them. Cause you don't wanna send them down the road and it being fumigated with everything.
Mr. Brown, get back to the ESS, which I see what's written here, but I would like a little more detail. Like the increase in professional services line by 20,000. And have the here, but number two, I mean, I would like some more explanation. I understand the bulk state line is off there.
Sure. I don't bring my other folder. I have a bunch of stuff that I don't want to make like packets this thing.
Right. Well,
Did you want me to go over any of those additional items on page 7?
You might ought to explain why they want to go up $1,000 for unplanned bodies.
Because they
We went through that.
They had, I think they had 3 last year. Didn't she talk about that
She
already?
did, well, she did not budget.
Oh.
We didn't hear. You might want to explain that.
So if you have someone that's deceased and they don't claim them, you still have to pay for cremation, and we have a really affordable rate. But then we had a lady that showed up and she didn't know any relative had perished, so then you're not really supposed to give them the remains, but they sometimes do. If we go, you can have it, we don't want it. It's not I mean, 3 last year, so I don't know.
It really would get to be a storage problem.
Well, if you let it out there that if no one claims anybody, then you're gonna start having people that like, oh, I'm not gonna claim it.
where would that have been from?
You know, which is,
He said that it's just an increase in the amount that have been unclaimed in the county.
Because I know there was one at the nursing homes.
Mhm.
But to me, if they do the nursing home, they're awarded the state's paying, why would the state pick that up?
They don't do it all. And the thing about it, when they stay in Caswell County so long, they could be from Ranipur, they become a resident here, they become out. And sometimes we don't know anything of social service, doesn't know anything about the person other than they're from New Hampshire. And that's it.
Much is already budgeted for that.
so I tried to find it, I just.
That's what was all in.
She had, what she had, $300 or $400?
It's $300 or $400 per person.
Right,
It's in one of these.
right, because they give a disc, I don't think later.
They give a discount, some of the funeral homes, one funeral home or 2 funeral homes, give a discount,
Right.
20.
What they do with the remains?
So they
They
currently
have
have
a
2
current
guys.
budget 2,000.
They is stored in the social services.
So they just have to keep them.
They have to keep them.
Sets up on the shelf unless you want to create a
They've had them
memorial.
there forever, as far as I know. They've had them there for a long time. And one person wanted this,
Position.
but they weren't able to buy or do the funeral or whatever, the cremation. And she said, she finally just said, okay. You know, it costs us 400, but take them because we have storage. They may be sitting on top of a file thing.
All right, so on the top of page 8. This is obviously the emergency phone hours, the LEAP program, the LEAP line. Some of these things are just additional capacity because we're having so much more work.
Yes, the LEAP is assistance with the, heating and electric and all that.
Yeah, I don't, she has a handout with all the breakout on this, I can just forward that to you too. Foster care, that's way more expensive than what they're increasing, but. When she tells you the stuff they have to do and how far they have to go, and a lot of intensive expense there.
I think with the increase of drug usage, we're seeing more children come into the care.
Yeah, and that foster care one is actually offset completely by a state line item.
What is that foster care IBE 22,000? What's that acronym? IBE? Y'all know?
So she talked about all that.
Then she said that they have to lay eyes on the children at least once a month. A lot of our kids end up going to Charlotte.
Uh,
And I know they could even have a child that the family took them to Florida and had issues with them, and staff had to go even as far as Florida, pick the children up and come back, with the child, and come back with them.
And they drove all night and was in court the next morning, it's 8 o'clock. They got in, I think it was 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and had to be back at court at 8 o'clock. With this situation. So it's not an easy job.
Well, I don't know what it is.
Eligibility.
Looks to me like Florida. Did you know that? Like Florida. Eligibility issues, I was thinking. But she said that's an eligibility review. So process, they have to probably have a person that they work with. Technology, I'm sure that these are Medicaid expansion stuff. I'll forward you those sheets that were provided to us tomorrow.
On the health department, then this is, I guess, position is kind of the way it's reclassification in the job, which is creating the $8,000.
Yeah.
And those are exact dollars because we actually have those calculations. The library is asking for a part-time employee.
Isn't this the same thing he came to us about 6 months ago and we voted against it?
Oh,
Just reworded it.
I guess it's.
Last episode.
So that's free. It's a non. Section A doesn't have any. Solid waste, I'm gonna do the solid waste and gas separately because they're enterprise funds. And then the bid closes on Tuesday, no? Wednesday. So the waste bid, RFP. We get those on Wednesday and we'll be able to calculate exact what everything is. You want to talk about that?
Of course, we're an enterprise fund, so, we have fund balance anytime we don't bring enough revenues. If we were not to, we have the money that we have set aside. And we're needing an increase in our professional services of $325. And this is just for our drug and alcohol testing and, annual background check and for any new employees that we have. It's just not enough there to cover it. The costs are going up on everything, so I need to put about $325 more in that line item. Then for the capital outlay, of course, our buses doubled in cost, just like everything that's going up. So therefore, we're requesting 2. The state will pay 90%, but of course, that means if they doubled, our 10% match is doubled as well. So we're gonna need $25,920 to cover the 10% for the 2 new buses.
How long will it take you to get them on this? Is it like ambulance?
I'm hoping that it all depends sometimes on which kind of ones you go with. I'm hoping that we will not have a a back order on these. But it's no guarantee that it could happen when it comes time to order it. Because this, you know, we'll order them, the orders will go out in, most times close to December before we actually get the order forms, October, December. And then we'll get the buses anywhere between late spring or, early summer.
So 6-8 months.
Yeah, typically. The increase in our maintenance repair for vehicles, I'm asking for 6,000 more there just to cover the increase in the cost of the vehicles. Having them serviced and be sure that we have enough there to cover our maintenance repairs. That's just a standard increase that we're looking at for this year. And CATS transportation, we're also looking for motor fuel. Motor fuel's creeping back up again. And with the Medicaid expansion, we are going a lot of back and forth more, going to Chapel Hill even more, and because we're just getting the increase there with Medicaid. So we're increasing our fuel line item as well. And our CATs for our part-time transportation, this is kind of really due to the Medicaid expansion and the increases of trips. And we're using more of our part-time help to cover this. And we do provide transportation on holidays for the dialysis patients here in the county. And this, of course, is overtime pay that comes involved because nobody's going to do holiday trips for flat rate.
This, I know with Medicaid expansion, you mentioned it, it's been mentioned some other times during the last hour or so. This is where the legislature approved Medicaid expansion.
Yes.
But they didn't provide the funds to CALS or any other county to cover all this.
We got no.
Unfunded mandate, more or less.
Okay. And they pretty much took all of our control that we had away because we're working with the brokers now. As we have some still left at DSS, but we work with the brokers. And they pretty much have all the control. So where we used to try to do a schedule to say that we would go these days to Chapel Hill and Durham. Now, if you try to do that, they'll tell you that you've got to go when the client wants, what time they want to go, what day of the week they want to go. I mean, it's just kind of like everything's at the client's discretion. And if you do not want to accommodate this, they will give it to another vendor and then you've lost the client altogether and the revenue. And then that's why we got to doing the holiday schedule, doing it as well, because they told us, well, if this is your dialysis person and you won't do it then, if we have to get another vendor to do it on the holiday, we'll end up probably just giving your person to them. So that we're kind of, I feel like we're kind of held hostage with this under the demands that we're under right now with Medicaid, and we're doing more back and forth on the road. I feel like we went back 20 years.
So let me see if I'm understanding what you just said. It used to be that you could say, we are going to Chapel Hill on just personal complexion on Monday and Wednesday.
Right.
Now, if you've got someone that, well, I don't want to go Monday, if I want to go
Exactly.
Tuesday, you've got to go Tuesday. You don't have a choice.
If you don't go, you're gonna lose that revenue. And you may lose that client altogether because if another vendor picks them up, you may not get them back.
By another vendor, you mean?
There's other vendors that can come through Caswell County, and they do come through Caswell County. I don't know who they are. I don't know all the logistics about it because I'm not privileged to that information, but I know we're in competition with other vendors. So if we choose not to provide that transportation, they may pick a company that say that's somewhere out of Alamance or Roxborough or somewhere to come into Caswell County, take our
I
person
think
and
one of
transport
them is from them.
them. It could be.
Well, I was always, and I guess I'm wrong, but I was always under the impression that this was a service that the county provided to help folks that couldn't get there any other way.
Right.
But listening to what you're saying, we're being told, you're gonna run this, you're gonna run this, and you're gonna go just exactly when that person wants to go, you have no say so.
Yes, sir. If you want to keep the Medicaid transportation, that's the demands that we have to operate under now, and it's not easy. I almost feel like it's Burger King your way.
Is it that we're making money off of it?
We are making money. I mean, we're
I
being.
mean, I see a lot of money that we have to pay.
Well, we're getting paid for these Medicaid trips. We're getting paid for them. And I mean, and most of the time, you know, we're definitely, our costs and stuff is being covered. But it's just, it has just changed completely. Medicaid is nothing like it used to be. You can ask like DSS, they can vouch with it as well. It's just not the same anymore. And then with the expansion, the brokers, and then now in July 1st, the Taylor program is gonna roll out too.
So all these numbers over here, you're really getting them back.
We anticipate, yes, to get them back, and what, if we, for whatever reason, do not get all of this money back, CATS does have a fund balance, but I can assure you, I go after every grant I can
I
possibly go.
I know you do, I've always noticed that.
To try to, you know, bring any in to help support it. Sometimes I'll have my fund balance in here, but I may, a lot of 9 out of 10, we don't even have to end up using it, because I can find other revenues to offset it. So that's why we do have a good surplus, because I try to be a good steward of the funds that we do have.
Yeah, if anybody goes after it, it's you. Okay, I just,
But yes, sir, we do plan to, you know, with those Medicaid services to recoup them. We still get the road funds that we get through the state, but of course, they never seem to increase. That provides services for your elderly and disabled and, your rural general public funds that we have there that all fall in the road that I get every year as well, helps pay for, transportation rides too. But Medicaid is a completely separate pot that we work with.
What, and this is changing the subject just a little bit, and I know we're talking about budget, but I have a question. What's the criteria for someone using the CAT service?
Well, it depends on what pot of money you're going after. Medicaid, if you're Medicaid, DSS decides if you're Medicaid eligible, or through the state, whichever broker you're working with decides if you're Medicaid eligible. Once they're Medicaid eligible, then we get the referrals letting us know that they need the service. And I bill in a couple of different ways. If it's through DSS, I have to upload it through NC Tracks. They upload on their end, then I upload on my end for us to get paid. If it's through one of the Medicaid brokers, we go into their portals, put the information in for the trips, and then they send a check to us. So but they go through NC Tracks, but they do that part for us, the brokers do, and then they just send us the check. So with road funds, it depends on like your age, if it's under E&D, 60 or over. If you are with the RGP, if you're not eligible for some of the other pots of money, then those funds will help be able to pay for your trip if you need to get to a medical appointment. We try to be open and have services to any citizen in the county that may need it. Now, if you ride through rural general public funds, most of the time there is, you know, like a small fee you may would, like it's almost like a donation fee that you pay, and the grant pays the rest.
Impressive that we have that for the size of the county.
Your people sit there, it's pretty much goes to the doctor's appointment in Greensboro. Your people sit there and wait on until they get there.
If they're gonna be there, like just for a regular doctor's office visit, yes, they're gonna wait, because if they're in Greensboro, by the time we got them back here, we'll be sending them back. But if we know, another thing that we're running into, just say like for cancer patients, we're getting there, and I know even the community paramedic has talked about this too. We get there, we think that if they're on the referral, that they maybe only gonna be there an hour or two. Oh my God, sometimes it's 5 and 6 hours, but and we're working with the different agencies to try to help narrow a better time, because if we know they're gonna be there that long, we bring the driver back and put them on another route, or either they come off the clock, and when the client calls and says they're ready, then they would go back. So it just kind of depends on the trip itself, but we have seen a big increase in taking people for cancer treatment. At Dallas, it was always a good little list there, but we've seen a big increase in cancer patients, unfortunately.
So that very last page is the maintenance projects that would be in the base from last year. Does that make sense? So last year's base had 195,000. And this is just a partial list of all their requests, but the ones that were put back into the base. We want to, like, we want to make sure we're transparent about these are new things, but they're not in last year's base budget. And RD's here, he has all of his roof stuff and his bids and all the projects. So if you have any questions on any of those, this is probably either time to hammer them on those.
One thing I didn't see in here, and I don't know where it would actually be, the money that has been allocated for this revow.
So you're saying like the new estimates or the new tax amount?
How much money have we already got set aside to pay for the revow?
The tax department has budgeted how much they specifically have budgeted to pay the service. That's in the line item, but we don't know, are you asking like what we're anticipating?
I mean, how much out of the budget from 220, whatever did we set aside to pay? for the revow?
That's an ongoing, we have it in the budget every year, and it kind of
I think
builds.
it's like 30,000 or I forget, I'll look,
Okay.
let me look
Yeah,
it
we
up.
can pull that account and tell.
But each year it's budgeted and we're just now
And we hadn't
spending it.
used it in 8 years.
Yeah,
But I just, I mean, I'd like to know how much is in
How
it.
much it costs?
How much, yeah, and the reason I'm gonna bring that up, Mr. Chairman, and I'm not pointing fingers. Let's get that straight right now. But I pulled a contract on this revow. And on page 3 on mine, it says that the consultant should be paid the amount not to exceed $445,500. On page 2, subsection 8, under liquidated damages, it states, in the event that the appraisal and reevaluation of all property herein required to be appraised and reevaluated is not completed by the date set forth in this agreement, the sum of $400 per day may be at the discretion of the county, asset against the consultant. Said amount should be considered liquidated damages for such delay in performance and not as penalty, and shall be deducted from the final payment of the compensation herein provided. I'd like the county attorney to look at this due to the fact that, I mean, I can't help things happen with the consultant. I can't help it that people walk out, but I think that if we're obligated to pay and if we're doing what we're supposed to, then when something happens on the other end, it should be looked at for some compensation on. Because with the daily numbers, they still don't do that.
But it's pretty detrimental to the whole process.
And it's holding us up. And like I said, I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just going by what the contract says. The contract says that if it's not done in this contract says the consultant will finish all services and deliver necessary data and other information completed. Complete the reevaluation only before December 31st, 2023.
When was that signed?
This contract, it says 11/10/22. It was before I got on board, but I just think that, I think they need to look at it.
Yeah.
Who signed the contract? Oh, this is the last 30 years.
No, this contract, I think, is gonna probably fall under the county manager, because from what I found out, the contract as far as this would fall under the county manager, not the tax director, because this one was signed
Brian.
Brian Miller and the appraisal company. It doesn't have a date on here at the bottom where it's signed, it was just dated at the top of 11/10/22.
We were just called this afternoon, just said they were coming to do an appraisal tomorrow at our place.
You don't let them inside.
Big part.
You don't let them inside.
Oh, no, they said they didn't need to come inside, they just wanted.
I just would like the county attorney to look over it. Because he's our county attorney to look at it, but I'm just saying, that I understand things happen, but it pushed us back. I've had numerous phone calls about where's the relapse.
They're just starting, it's gonna be next year almost before they finish.
So I would just like that to be taken a look at. And that's all I have on that one.
I'm optimistic we get numbers by next Thursday. Like, I don't know if that's gonna happen, but that's,
No, we've got a lot to get done. I mean,
Yeah.
we need the numbers because you gotta have the hearings, you gotta have,
But it's been 30 years, this never happened. We always had it on time. But I want everybody to know that we always had this on time before we can actually do this. However, you know, we don't have to, you know, if we demand still pay for a while, we don't have, you know. But, you know, at the same time, I think we can kind of do an excellent budget if we can do it. I mean, that's next
Just
step.
a-
Them up. You know.
Starting in 2021, because that's where our system goes back to. $30,300 a year we put in until the 24 budget, and we put 100,000 in.
Okay.
For that budget.
so if you deduct that from this, we're still, how much in?
200,000.
That's what I'm saying. We gotta come up with that money somewhere, so that's what I'm saying. I didn't see that in here.
Yeah, I'm gonna say right now in the system for 2024, the expense line that we paid for the revow out of is in the whole 91,000.
Right.
91,500.
That's kind of the figures I had the other night when I sat down and started looking at things. I thought we were gonna be in it. That's what I'm saying. If this contract is good, then we need to look at some compensation to offset it.
Well, and with LGC too, if we're pushing against that for, then it doesn't alleviate that we're not compliant, but it's a, hey, we're, you know, our staff is doing what they're supposed to do, they're not getting performance from the contract.
Right. I mean, I'm just going by what I heard the other night was they had somebody that walked out midstream. Made it.
Yeah, it's not our,
It's nothing we can't, I mean. It's that.
yeah, we're definitely doing everything we can to get this prepared and.
Right, and like I said, I'm not pointing fingers, I'm just saying, I know that there's a deficit there. Based off of what we have versus what this says. And I think we need to look at some type of,
Well, I would like to recognize both Melissa's, and Melissa Miller has been doing our audit work, and it's
Get there.
you know, it's just been a lot of effort. And there's still a lot to be done.
But we're on schedule. With the audit, we're on schedule.
And then likes to the association has, you know, they're really supposed to just come advise and help us a little bit. They've been doing a lot of heavy lifting for the county for quite some time now. Both Amy and Jonna. We need to be self-sufficient from that. So yeah, look those over, go through the budgets, we'll get the items lined up and send out the updates. The next meeting should be, I'm hoping to get it to you by the 20th. That's our goal.
Me too, I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion made.
I'm trying to-
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Ah.
Opposed?
Thank you.
5 o'clock,
That's